Chapter 28 of Zhang Henshui's The Golden Fen Family. It's not in vain to bring prostitutes to relieve worries about right and wrong. When Dr. Leng saw everyone's surprised look, he guessed that they didn't know what was going on. Yin smiled and said, "The eldest young lady has a happy pulse. It doesn't matter. Don't you think this is not happy?" It turned out that Jin Quan had 4 sons and no grandson. This was what Mrs. Jin was looking forward to day and night. At this time, I often feel a little uncomfortable when I see the second young lady, and I pay all my attention to her, thinking that she is pregnant. Now the doctor said that the eldest mistress is pregnant, and she is overjoyed. He said, "Doctor, is this true? Don't you feel uncomfortable?" Dr. Liang smiled and said, "Madam, as a doctor, I can't even tell whether someone is happy or not. How can I be a doctor?" Mrs. Jin smiled and said, "Mr. Liang, don't be paranoid. Because our eldest mistress has not revealed any news, I am very surprised to hear this suddenly. Now we have to prepare a midwife. Mr. Liang, you see, are Western midwives better? Or Japanese midwives?" Dr. Liang said with a smile. "It's not busy at all. It's only been 2 or 3 months now." Mrs. Jin said, "That's all. Our second mistress is often uncomfortable. I also need to ask Dr. Liang to take a look." Dr. Liang guessed half of it after hearing Mrs. Jin's accent. She smiled and said, "It's good to take a look. It's better to be more careful when something happens." After hearing this, Mrs. Jin sent the old lady to ask the second young lady to come. The old lady went away for a while, then came over and said with a smile, "The second young lady said she is not sick and refuses to see her." Mrs. Jin said, "Why doesn't she come to see you? It's you guys who are talkative again. Let her know that's why she didn't come." The old lady said, "We don't know if the second young lady is sick." "What are you talking about?" Dr. Liang said, "No, it doesn't matter. I have a pamphlet with baby care instructions. There are various ways to protect the fetus. I can bring some copies and give them to the young ladies. If they follow the book, it will be better than having a doctor at home to see if there is anything wrong." Took the leather bag and left. Here, Mrs. Jin heard the news that she had a grandson. She immediately took it as a problem and discussed it with this one and that one. But when he was about to tell Fengju about this, Fengju preferred not to see him for a few days. Fengju was at home, and Paifeng just argued with him, but Fengju got angry and avoided it. Paifeng also said first that if you don't come back, I hope you will never see me again in your life. The first day passed, and Fengju didn't come back the next day, so he felt a little panicked. On the 3rd day, he still hadn't come back, so he called the ministry to ask. It happened to be Sunday again. On the 4th day, Paifeng became ill. After 2 days of illness, she still didn't come back. By this time, Paifeng was very anxious. But what happened was that she refused to talk about finding him back. If she wanted to say it, it was clear that she had softened, and Fengju was getting more and more successful, so her face remained calm and expressionless. Later, Dr. Liang checked the pulse and diagnosed the condition, which made me happy. Because for more than a month, I have been doubting whether there is she. Although I believe it's 70-80, I don't dare to tell Fengju. I'm afraid that once he says it out, if it's not true, how shabby it would be. Now Dr. Liang has confirmed this. The first thing is that my mother-in-law wants to be a little more hands-on with me and not make me angry. If Fengju is going to cause trouble, she will definitely suppress her son instead of her daughter-in-law. Even Fengju himself was overjoyed when he heard the news. He would not dare to make people angry again. If he said, "I am sick because of this," wouldn't he come back to see me? Thinking like this, Fengjuzi didn't care whether he came back or not. Unexpectedly, Fengju gave up and refused to go home. Even when he went home, he would not enter his room. However, he still went to the yamen as usual. After leaving the yamen, it was unknown where the person went. The Jin family's house is very big, and it is normal for Jin Quan and his wife not to see their son for a day or 2, so they don't ask about it. The old couple didn't ask. How could anyone else know? Paifeng slept for 3 days and decided to wait quietly, so she straightened her hair, changed into a long dress, and walked to her mother-in-law's house. Mrs. Jin put on big framed glasses, took a copy of the Diamond Sutra with detailed annotations and large characters, and was lying on the soft couch reading it. Seeing Paifeng come in, he put down his book, took off his glasses, and said with a smile, "Paifeng, are you okay?" Just lie in the room for a while. Don't move around happily like usual. Pai Feng said, sitting in the house is always boring, so you have to go out and move around. Of course you need to exercise, but when you wake up from sleep, you must take a rest, so as not to tire yourself out. Pai Feng smiled and said, sitting alone in the room for 3 or 4 days is boring enough. I want to find some people to play small cards. Mrs. Jin said, playing cards is even more inappropriate. Fengju not at home? Pai Feng said, I haven't seen him for almost a week. Mrs. Jin said, really? He was still sitting in this room for a while. She said, he came home, but he just didn't meet me. When Mrs. Jin heard that, she was silent for a while and said, this child's temper is still the same. I will call his ministry later and ask him. Look, Pai Feng said, let him go. If you ask him, it will make him angry. Mrs. Jin knew that Pai Feng was angry, but she didn't know how to answer, so she said calmly, I didn't see you, young man. Husband and wife always like to have some free time. After saying this, it got involved in another matter. Mrs. Jin thought about Fengju coming back in the afternoon and asking him what happened behind Pai Feng's back. Unexpectedly, Fengju still didn't come back that afternoon. When Mrs. Jin asked the footman, he said he didn't know. So I went to ask the driver, and he said, every day I take my uncle to the ministry, and he takes the bus when he comes back. If he doesn't come back, he won't take the bus, and he doesn't know where he is. Mrs. Jin couldn't figure it out, so she kept asking more and more questions. The day passed, and on the next day, Fengju came back. As soon as Mrs. Jin heard the news, she immediately went to ask questions. Mrs. Jin immediately asked, aren't you making things difficult for me like this? Pai Feng just felt a little uncomfortable, and you were angry with her at this time. You have been making trouble for a long time, and I didn't know it at all. It seemed like I was indulging. You're like this, Fengju said with a smile. Why am I not angry with her? Mrs. Jin said, you still say you won't make trouble? Fengju said, she hasn't seen her for a whole week. She was chatty with me when she saw her. I didn't want to be bothered by this, so I avoided her. Mrs. Jin said, where are you hiding? Fengju said, where can I hide? In the front room. That's all. Mrs. Jin said, are you at home every day? Fengju said, how can you see me if I don't come back? Let me tell you a lot. From today on, you have to go back to your room and sleep. Running around like a child is not a good thing. Fengju agreed in a daze and walked away. It turns out that during these times, Fengju, Li Weiren, and Zhu Yishi formed a party and visited the brothels every night. Fengju was still very satisfied with Wang Xiang, whom he met in the Bei team that day, and went there every day for 3 days in a row. Wang Xiang also casually said something, asking when will the uncle praise us. Fengju smiled and said, any day is fine. Wang Xiang held Fengju's hand and looked at his face, and smiled, any day is fine? What about tomorrow? Fengju said, okay, let's do it tomorrow. You can prepare some food, and I'll invite some friends to eat here tomorrow. Wang Xiang said, really? Fengju said with a smile, we also know this. It's been a long time, have I ever wronged you? After hearing this, Aunt Li, Wangxing's leader, beamed. He said, this is true. The uncle is a very good man, and never tells lies. The next day, Fengju set up 2 banquet tables worth 72 taels in Wangxing's house. After drinking, they started playing cards again and got the jackpot worth more than 300 yuans. Since this match, the relationship between the two parties has been particularly strong. As soon as evening came, Fengju went to sit with Wang Xiang. Aunt Li also asked Fengju for a check for 500 yuan, and asked Wang Xiang to accompany Fengju to the Chinese and foreign restaurants every night to watch dancing, so there was no need to come back. Fengju has such a fun place, and it doesn't matter if he doesn't go home, so he has been doing this for more than a week. Although Mrs. Jin called him to say a few words that day, he was non-committal in person. In the evening, he took Wang Xiang with him to the Chinese and foreign restaurant. Pai Feng saw that her mother-in-law's orders could not change her husband's attitude, so she had no choice but to let him go. In the evening, I took a book and lay on the soft sofa to read it. There was no one in the courtyard, but I seemed to be indifferent as I read the book. Suddenly I heard Huiqing calling sister-in-law through the window. Pai Feng said, please come in. Huiqing said with a smile, why are you so polite? You still use the word please? After saying that, he walked in. Pai Feng said, no, it's not polite to come and go. Since you are very polite, you called out first to test and see if you can come in. Then I should say please first. Huiqing said, it's not that I'm being polite. I'm afraid that my eldest brother is in the house, so I call him first to make it easier. As he said this, he sat down next to Paifeng and picked up the book Paifeng was reading. I saw the 4 words bitter si sihing written on the bookmark. He smiled and said, these new novels these days always have the words love and desire. This book is probably about a man and a woman who fell in love, and in the end, after all kinds of torture, they suddenly woke up, right? Paifeng said, with a smile, that's not what you guessed. Huiqing said, why is it not the same as the name of the novel? Paifeng said, it's not a novel in the first place. You will understand after you take a look. Huiqing heard that. He opened one page and saw that it was a full-length image of Guanyin painted in color onto pages. Turning further back, there is the Taisheng induction chapter printed in large characters. Huiqing smiled and said, you are so boring. How can you read this kind of book? Paifeng said, don't say this is a boring book. If you look carefully, you must feel that this kind of book is good. There are also many famous sayings and truths in it. After reading it, you will definitely understand and relieve many worries. The following is the Shurangama Sutra. The Tathagata and Ananda repeatedly argued that everything in the world is empty. It's very interesting. I think it's boring to compete with others. Huiqing said with a smile, people are like this. When they are angry, they don't want to be negative. Paifeng said, otherwise, my mother is not angry. Why is she so familiar with the Diamond Sutra? Huiqing said, old people, with all their wealth and splendor, have to be afraid of things going wrong. Longevity. Neither of these 2 things can be achieved by human power. Just chant the Buddha's name and do the practice. Paifeng pointed at Huiqing and said with a smile, stop saying this and listen carefully. Tell your mother that you are criticizing the old man. Huiqing said, I won't talk nonsense to you anymore. I'm here to discuss something with you. The day after tomorrow is Laoqi's birthday, and they all want to give gifts. You plan to give them. What? Paifeng said, yes, there was a fuss last year, but it didn't happen. It's time to have some fun this year. He will go abroad next year. He may not come back when he is 20. Huiqing said, everyone is saying the same thing. But what about my father? He said that a person always has a birthday every year. So what is there to celebrate? He has always hated people celebrating birthdays, and a young person is not worthy of the word longevity. So how can he celebrate it? Paifeng said, do we have to hide the gift we gave to Laoqi from his father? I have something that Laoqi can use, and it won't alarm anyone. Huiqing said, what is it? He can use it. There are too many things. Paifeng said, why? He doesn't like this thing. I plan to give him a fortune. Huiqing said with a smile, that won't make him understand us. To say that we are not generous, or to forgive us, is to say that we are making fun of him. Why don't we just give him something back? Paifeng said, in that case, I'll give him a big dress to wear when he gets married. Huiqing said, no, you have to choose someone interesting. He is an interesting person. Paifeng said, isn't the wedding dress interesting? Huiqing said, he is an interesting person. You don't have to wear a dress until you get married. So what's the point? I have a way to rent a movie and show it at home. Paifeng said, no, it's not good. They can show the movie in the cinema. It looks great on the screen. The last few times we showed it, a piece of white cloth was hung on the white cloth, which made it less exciting. We might as well ask a small class to perform some plays. Huiqing said, no. As soon as the gongs and drums sounded, Paifeng said with a smile, it won't work this way, and it won't work that way, then there will be no fun. Wouldn't it be a vegetarian birthday? Huiqing said, it's better to ask him himself. Let's go. I'll ask him what he wants from us. This is the best way. He is at home at this time. You can ask someone to ask him in private. He can do it. He told Zhang Ma to call. Yanxi said across the room, I'm at home. You've got another helper. Whenever you need a role, call me. I can fill the vacancy at any time. When he walked in, he saw Paifeng and Huiqing leaning on the sofa and chatting. They only turned on the green-shaded electric light on the wall. The room was quiet, and there didn't seem to be any movement. He smiled and said, I thought the two sisters-in-law ordered me to play cards, but it turned out not to be the case. Huiqing said, sit down. I want to ask you, tell me honestly, what is it that you lack now? Yanxi smiled and said, are you going to make fun of me again? I'll tell you the truth. I'm missing a young lady. Pai Feng said, I'm not joking with you. I'm asking you what practical things you lack. Yanxi smiled and said, then there are a lot of things. In a word, it's a lack of money. With money, everything will be easy. After hearing this, Pai Feng squinted at Huiqing, and they smiled at each other. Yanxi said, what do you think? Is what I said too vulgar? Huiqing said, it's not vulgar. We guessed first. And you would say that. Let me ask you, didn't your third sister-in-law lend you 300 yuans last time? What did you do with it? It's been less than half a month. Yanxi said, my hole is too big, and it can't be filled with 300 yuans. Pai Feng said, I'm not checking your account. Please don't misunderstand. The reason we ask is because your birthday is coming, and we want to give you a birthday gift. I don't know which one is most suitable for you. Please tell me yourself. We have decided to give you a gift, so you don't have to be polite. Yanxi said, the two sisters-in-law have guessed it. What else can I say? Huiqing said with a smile, seventh brother, you should also show some courage and don't let others measure you. Why do you really want money when we guessed you wanted money? Yanxi said with a smile, who taught me to spend too much? Besides, the eldest sister-in-law is the mother, so it doesn't matter if you tell the truth in front of the sisters-in-law. If you lie, it will show that you are not a good child. Pai Feng said with a smile, look, when I said give money, I even said that the eldest sister-in-law is the mother and a good child. Second sister, just give him a share. You see, how much should we give him? Huiqing said with a smile, a few cents is not enough. It's decent. Let's give him $1 each. Yanxi smiled and said, the elders give, the young dare not refuse. Whether it's $1 or 1 cent, it's good, of course I accept it. Huiqing said, that's a very dignified thing to say, but don't you think it's too little? Yanxi said, I can't think it's too little. Pai Feng said, if you think it's too little, then you think it's too little. If you don't think it's not too little, then you don't think it's too little. Why add the word can? Yanxi said, I know that the two sisters-in-law are very generous. Maybe they will take this opportunity to give me 300 or 500. Now, talking about giving me that $1 is, of course, just a joke. If I say it's too little, you will be angry and won't give me the whole batch. But $1 is not a lot. If you ask me to say that, it is not a small amount. I am not sorry to my sisters-in-law. Huiqing said with a smile, sister-in-law, this child is really good at talking now. I wonder who did he learn from? Pai Feng said, of course, he learned from Sister Shuzhu. She is a person who can talk. Yanxi said, I asked what this means. If you talk about me, will it involve her? Pai Feng said with a smile, because she is yours, she will be involved. Second sister, what do you think? I think the seventh child will be able to listen to Sister Shuzhu in the future. Yanxi plugged his ears with 2 fingers and stood up to leave. Pai Feng said, why are you running away? I haven't finished talking yet. Yanxi said, how can I bear what you said? Pai Feng said, just don't say that. You said you want money, so we really have to give you money. How are you going to treat us? Yanxi said, just treat everyone to a meal. How will it be? I can't tell you. Pai Feng said, without some fun? Yanxi said, yes, there is a way to play. A group of Nanyang magic troupe is here, and there are several female magicians who are very good looking. Huiqing said, do you still want to watch her magic? Or do you want to watch the female magician? Yanxi said, I want to watch both magic and female magician. On that day, invite her to perform a few tricks, and have fun quietly for a while. I guarantee that no one will know. Pai Feng said, I think it doesn't matter whether you invite her or not. This kind of woman always has some evil spirit. You brothers, several people, when they see a woman, they are like flies seeing blood, don't make trouble. Yanxi laughed and said, if you say that, are we brothers still adults? Huiqing said, if you want to find a magic troupe, then find a magic troupe. But I don't know what guests you are going to invite. Yanxi said, I don't think I will invite guests, just let the family eat and drink a little. If I invite guests, my parents will inevitably know. I would rather have less fun than be scolded more. Pai Feng said, are there no strangers besides the family? Yanxi said, maybe we have to invite a few outsiders, then let them have fun in the living room outside. Hui Chang said, "Are there no people who have joined our circle?" Yanxi said, "They are just a few classmates and a few friends who often meet. Of course, we can't invite them inside." Because he said that, Hui Chang smiled with Pei Feng and didn't mention it again. The next day, Hui Chang and Yu Fen also discussed it. The three of them each wrote a check for 100 yuans, sealed it with coral red paper, and wrote the words Shu Jing on it. Yu Fen's check was sent by Qingqiu. Qingqiu took it and thought that he treated us very well, so we should give him a little gift. So she didn't send it first, but went to Minzi, called Anan to the corridor, and told her what she wanted to do. Anan laughed and said, "Don't be so embarrassing. What can we afford to give? If we take it, Qi will laugh at us." Qingqiu said, "That's not the way it is said. A gift of a goose feather from 1,000 miles away is less than a gift of kindness." Minzi was reading in the room. When he saw the two of them talking secretly, he became suspicious. Suddenly, he heard the words, "The gift is less than a gift of kindness." He thought, "I wonder what these two little brats are doing." So he lifted a corner of the screen window and looked out. Qingqiu was holding a red paper envelope in her hand, and said, "This is what our young mistress asked me to give to Master Qi. I want to wait until our gifts are ready, and then send them along." Anan said, "You can send it first. How can we prepare all the gifts in such a short time?" Minzi then realized that they were going to give Yanxi a birthday gift. So he said, "Qingqiu, bring it in so I can see what they are giving." Qingqiu heard it and brought it in. Minzi said, with a smile, "Your young mistress is now showing off her wealth. Borrowing does not count, and gifts are also in cash." Qingqiu said, "It's not just our young mistress who is giving money. The eldest and second young mistresses are also giving money." Minzi shouted to the inner room through the gauze curtain, "Runzi, did you hear that? They are all giving money." Runzi asked, "How much are they giving?" Minzi said, "The third sister-in-law gave 100 yuan, and they are probably the same." Runzi said, "They are all very meticulous people. They will not do this without the consent of the seventh brother. If they can give, we can give." Minzi said, "It's not a question of whether or not, but a question of willingness. I don't want to collect a lot of money for him to spend." Runzi said, "Didn't he say he was in debt? Let's collect some money and let him pay off his debts." Minzi said, "So, each of us got 100 yuans? Runzi said, "Of course, the same as the three sisters-in-law." Minzi smiled and said, "That's really a bargain for him." Did you hear that? Qingqiu and Anan also wanted to give him gifts. After thinking for a while, they couldn't think of anything to give. I think they were just giving money. Anyway, in their eyes, the seventh master was no better than them. If the seventh master was so demanding, they would not refuse it. Qingqiu laughed and said, "How dare we do that? Aren't we asking for trouble?" Runzi then came out, lifting the veil with one hand and stroking her hair with the other, and said with a smile, "What time is it today?" Qingqiu said, "Tomorrow is the day after tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow is the seventh master's birthday." Runzi said, "I slept in early and forgot about it. I didn't go to the front to check the telegram. It said that the fourth sister would be in Beijing today or tomorrow. If she arrives, old seven has another income." Minzi said, "There probably isn't a telegram. If there was, mother would have asked us to tell her." Runzi said, "Qingqiu, did you come from the front just now? Did you hear that? There was a telegram?" Minzi said, "You are asking in vain. If she came from the front, she would have told us as long as we mentioned it. Would you still need to ask?" Runzi said, "What's the reason?" Qingqiu pouted and said, "What's there to not understand? Miss Wu called me a quick-talking girl." As soon as she said it, everyone laughed. Qingqiu felt embarrassed and still took Anan to the corridor to talk. Anan said, "What are you going to give him?" Qingqiu said, "I think you and we can invite Yuer and Zhaolon, and we can pool our money and buy him some things to decorate his room. Seventh master likes these things to be given to him. Look, aren't there things in his room that are given to him by others?" Anan said, "You are waving your thumb like a fan. I know that the things in his room are divided into 3 categories. The first category is given to him by his girlfriend. The second category is given to him by male and female actors. The third category is given to him by his boyfriend. Which category are we in?" Qingqiu said, "Anyway, they can't throw it away, so giving it to them is always a favor." As she was talking, 2 florists came in with a pot of newly opened osmanthus flowers and placed them on the steps. Runzi said, with a smile in the room, "I have an idea for you. The 7th master is going to have a party that day. You can buy dozens of pots of osmanthus for the 7th master and let him treat the guests to appreciate the flowers. He will be very happy. Fortunately, you don't spend much money." Qingqiu said, "Really? What kind of gift is that?" Runzi said, "You are vulgar people. How can you understand this? You can't go wrong if you listen to me." Minzi also smiled and said, "Qingqiu gave osmanthus, which is interesting. With your name, he will accept it." Qingqiu smiled and said, "That's a joke to me. I won't do it." Runzi said, "Silly. Why don't you give such a beautiful gift that saves money? This is a proper gift. Who is joking?" Qingqiu believed what Runzi said. She found Yuer and Zhaolan and told them that each of them contributed 3 yuan, and then they put the money together and gave it to the flower maker, asking him to buy it. After Qingqiu did this, she sent Yufin's birthday gift to Yanxi's study. Yanxi took the red paper envelope, pulled out the contents and saw that it was also a check for 100 yuans. He smiled and said, "Why are they all giving me money? That's great. Everyone is giving me money. This way, I'm going to make a small fortune." Qingqiu smiled and said, "7th master, don't laugh at us. Anan and I have pooled some money to buy some sweet osmanthus flowers to celebrate 7th master's birthday. I wonder if 7th master will be willing to do me a favor?" Yanxi blushed when he heard Qingqiu say that she had also pooled some money. Later, when she said that she was giving sweet osmanthus flowers, he smiled and said, "It's very elegant. I will definitely accept it. I will treat everyone to a drink that day, and we can enjoy the sweet osmanthus flowers." While speaking, he took out a piece of antique cloud paper from the paper box on the table and wrote a reply note, which was a courtesy to accept the gift, and respectfully paid for yuan. Qingqiu was standing by the table and saw it at a glance, so she reached out and pressed the paper to stop him from writing. She laughed and said, "It's Master Qi's birthday. I feel like I can't afford a good gift myself. It's not decent. Why is Master Qi giving money?" Yanxi said, "You give gifts because it's your favor. Your young mistress gave me a gift because I respect her efforts. That's my favor. How can I save it?" Qingqiu said, "Master Qi wrote it, but I don't want it either. I won't talk about it. I'm leaving." After saying that, she turned around and left. Yanxi jumped up immediately, grabbed a lock of her hair, and laughed. "You can't run away." Qingqiu laughed. "Oh, my hair is broken." Yanxi laughed. "I'll see if you can run away or not." As they were talking and laughing, Yuer ran over panting, holding her hands high, and said, "Are you still making trouble? It's terrible. Something happened behind. Go and see." Yanxi was frightened when she saw this situation. Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.